When I was young, I was really, really shy. I mean, really shy. I really struggled to interact with anyone I didn't know. I would be the kid that would be hiding behind their parents' legs. I was similar in my teenage years. I was always the quiet one amongst my group of friends. Over the years, I've learned to enjoy talking to other people. I really enjoy doing a presentation. What I've learned is you need to know the subject well, but it doesn't matter if you don't know the people. As long as you know what you're talking about, you can be confident doing that.
As a young boy of about 2 years old, I had a nasty accident. I ended up with a severe squint in my eye. I had to have a number of operations to correct it. And then for a number of years, I had to wear patches over both eyes. So when I was in my early years at school, this had quite an impact on me. It affected my confidence, and my teachers told me that I was a very slow and late developer, which meant that I was really slow at reading and learning and writing. I persevered, I got through school, went to university, ended up working in the NHS. I'm in a job that means I have to spend my time writing reports and talking to people and being confident. What I took from that is when you are thrown a bad hand like that, make the most of it, because you never know what's around the corner.
When I was younger, I moved house when I was about 11 or 12 and moved from living on a farm. And experienced some really horrible psychological bullying. Kids were really mean to me, so I didn't really fit in. So they would get on the bus in the mornings, and one morning they'd speak to me and they'd sit with me and want to be chatty and talkative, and the next day they'd get on and a group of them would just completely ignore me. It did stop me doing a number of things, so I was too scared to go outside and play, and that made me fit in even less. I did reasonably well in my exams and was accepted for a place in sixth form, but decided that I couldn't face going to sixth form because I couldn't spend another 2 years with those girls. When I was about 13, I started to develop some really odd rituals around. If I had a good day, I would remember what I ate for breakfast, what time I'd gone to bed, all sorts of things to try and create the right atmosphere for a good day the next day. So I have two much older sisters who spotted what was going on and were really supportive around trying to break those cycles and help me to think about another way to do things. I left school at 16 and went to work and worked for a few years. When I started working for the NHS, I was really lucky to be able to meet some really good mentors and to have some good coaches. And I have gone to university and I have done other things. And I probably wouldn't have this job without having had that experience, because my life might have taken a whole different direction. But I think I know you can do it. You just have to want to, and finding people who believe in you is really important, and people who encourage you.
I had a wonderfully happy childhood until I was 14 years old. They went off to school one morning, and when my father came home later in the evening, he said that my mum was in hospital. I believe that my mother had actually died that day. In fact, she didn't die until the next day, and I didn't have the opportunity of going to say goodbye to her. I also wasn't allowed to go to her funeral. It wasn't believed that children should go to parents' funerals. Neither was it thought necessary for a child to say how they actually felt, or indeed for an adult, like my dad, to say how terribly unhappy he was. It's changed my life in a way. It brought me into social work. I've had a wonderful 30-year career. One of the important things that I've also learnt is how important it is to have the opportunity to say how you feel about the people that you love.
When I was about 12, there was a boy in my class who every day at the end of school would be very intimidating to me, just threatening. Nothing actually happened, but very threatening. And I realised over a period of time that it caused me quite a lot of trauma. I would walk all the way around the other end of the school and for various different roads out of the way to avoid this kid on the way home. And this went on probably for maybe the best part of half a year, and it became part of my life. And looking back, I think probably the reason I did it is because I didn't want to get in trouble and I didn't stand up for myself. I remember now that it culminated one day where I went home and just completely fell apart. I was in floods of tears, really upset. And I look back at it and I think, What would I have done different? I think probably now I would have stood up for myself. I would have got some help from other people a bit earlier. So now I'm a little bit older. I've got a responsible job. It didn't cause me to be a bully, but it did cause me. I think it has caused me to really think more about the impact of myself on others. How does my behaviour influence on other people, so that I don't potentially have that impact on other people?
When I was about 9, I remember my nana being diagnosed with dementia. It was my first experience of an inpatient ward setting. I remember feeling quite frightened. There were lots of kind of things I didn't really understand. And all I can really track back to that time was just how sad my mum was a lot of the time, and how confused I was about what was happening to the person that I loved. I think what I've learned from that as an adult is just the importance of families really learning how to sit down and talk about feelings, which is why now, as a clinical psychologist, I think I've used a lot of my experiences, how we can help people to cope and adjust to those times, but also for us to remind ourselves that going through any period of change, you do come out the other end, and with the right support and asking for help, it is possible to get through significant change and significant loss.
If I had to talk about one thing, it would probably be being more bold and brave in accepting opportunities or creating them when you're younger. I think I didn't believe that I had the knowledge or skills to accept opportunities, even though they were first kind of learning experiences. And I think looking back, especially having mentored a few people who have been in the same roles as me, that probably wasn't the best idea. You only live once.